Our featured guest this month is one of the most prolific songwriters, producers, and musicians working today. His music has been featured in hundreds of music trailers, video games, sports promos, and ads from ESPN to NBC to MTV and tons more. For instance, his song Cold-Blooded was recently used as the theme song for the Chicago Cubs. Zayde Wolf is the solo project and vision of Dustin Burnett, a Nashville producer and musician who just dropped his third full-length album, Neon Blood Type, this year. The album charted to the tops of iTunes in over 25 countries within hours of release. It features over a dozen adrenaline-charged songs focused on bringing us together, motivating us to move forward, and giving us hope in these challenging times. Recently, I sat down with Dustin to find out the meaning of Zayde Wolf, his process for creating such powerful music, especially as it relates to his latest work, Neon Blood Type, and the background behind his comic/coloring book that he created with Zayde Wolf and his family as superheroes. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. Dustin, great to have you here.
How's it going? I'm so glad to be here.
First thing I want to ask you as we jump right in is, What is Zayde Wolf? Where does the name come from? And what does it represent to you?
Yeah, so it's crazy. The whole story of Zayde Wolf is very crazy. Me being a singer, again, was a complete surprise by accident, actually. I spent a lot of my time in my 20s in bands and producing, and then kind of at the beginning of my maybe 29, 30, I was like, I'm not going to be a singer anymore. I don't want to try to be a band. I want to produce music. I want to write music, but I don't want to be the singer anymore. And so I hung it up for a long time. Moved to Nashville. I worked on a lot of music down here. And then right about 2014, and I'd been in Nashville about 7-8 years, but at that point, 7 years. I started working on some music, and I was going to have a guy. I was working on all these songs. I was going to have another guy be a singer, and I was going to be the producer. And I had this idea for this vision for this sound that I kind of made. I had already sang on the demos of those and those kinds of things, and I had an opportunity to send one of those songs over to my friend Jessica, who does music licensing. Mm-hmm. And so I had a song that I wanted to send to her. And I couldn't get it together with the guy to actually sing and want to be a part of the project, or a couple of the guys that I was wanting to do. So my wife was like, go ahead and finish out the songs. So I finished them. I finished the vocals on them. I sent them over to Jessica. And in order to send them to Jessica, she knew me as a producer. She didn't know me as a singer. So I put the name Zayde Wolf on it so I can actually kind of just hide behind the fact that it wasn't me. I could say, here's another group that I've produced. What do you think about this? And she instantly, she got a music license for the song that I sent her in a couple of days. That was maybe like $25,000 license. It was like a really big chunk of money that just plopped in sort of by accident. And so she was like, well, who's Zayde Wolf, and how do I get more of these songs? It's going really good. And I was like, well, it's me. And the rest is, the last 5 years of history of, being a part of some amazing pieces of fandom, video games and comic book characters and movie trailers and stuff like that. It's been really special to be a part of.
And the name itself, I think I read that it was like names for your third-born child that you just kind of cobbled together and said, here you go, here's a new band.
Yeah, that is so true. My wife and I were years ago, we were going to have our third child, and we already had a boy and a girl, so we decided we wouldn't look at the ultrasound to see if it was going to be a boy or a girl. And so we had to pick out boy and girl names, and Zayde Wolf was on the top of my list for boy names. My wife was like, hell no, we're not doing that. And so it kind of just hung around. And so when I had that song to pitch over, I was like, I had to put a name on this. I was like, okay, I'll put that name on there for now. I always liked that name. And so because of that choice, yeah, I've lived with that for the last 5-6 years.
So basically you won, and your wife is now having to be reminded daily of your name choice.
I guess I never thought about it like that, but I guess in some ways, yeah, the name never got to leave us. We ended up having a girl, so we didn't even argue about a boy's name. So we just we both agreed on the name for our daughter, and so that name just kind of got chucked in a trash can until like maybe another year and a half later. So
Nice.
yeah.
You
So
come from
wild.
a Yeah, you come from a small town in Illinois, I believe. How did
Yeah.
your career in music begin? Was it in your family? Did you go to a special school? Were you self-taught like that cool kid in high school with the guitar?
Mm. Well, a couple of interesting things about where I grew up. One of them is I grew up in the town is called Metropolis.
Oh, we don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Superman.
exactly, right? And so we have a big Superman statue in town and a Superman museum and memorabilia all over. They do a Superman festival every summer where they have different, uh, comic book characters and movie characters come through and actors and things. And so, yeah, we kind of grew up around that and always thought that I never really thought how cool it actually kind of was until I was a little older and looked back and I was like, actually, this is a really interesting part of my story to sort of be from this, this space,
Humble, heroic beginnings, right?
kind of is, I guess, in some ways. Yeah, but I grew up out in the country on some acres that belonged to my family and my grandfather. And my parents just always loved music and rock and roll. They always had some kind of vinyl record on. And my mom bought a piano one time because I would sing constantly. And she's like, maybe this kid's really musical. His grandmother was musical. His grandfather was musical. My parents didn't play any instruments. And so they got a piano, and my mom says that I instantly sat down and started making music on it as like a 6-year-old kid. To some degree. I mean, I always think that moms are like, they just sometimes see us as golden, always. But
Yeah.
but now with my kids, I see them sitting down and doing things on the piano that I'm like, oh wow, geez, okay. So maybe that did actually exist. I didn't believe her until I became a parent myself. But yeah, I took guitar lessons for maybe like 6 months or so from a local guitar teacher once a week. And then I just really kind of got into wanting to make music. And so I always heard songs. I loved songs. And so an instrument was really all it was a way for me to create a song. I didn't really care if I was really good at playing it or any of those things. I wanted to be able to just make music through whatever I was holding. So yeah, I think that was the reason why I was super interested in trying to learn how to play instruments and because I just wanted to get songs out that I would hear in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always I always thought it was a cool thing too to when you're learning an instrument and learning how to play it, and then you're like connecting it to like songs that you listen to, because like I remember like learning how to play guitar, and one of the first songs that I was learning how to play was Dust in the Wind, and it was just this like magical experience when you're able to sort of break down the song to something that you grew up listening to and loving, and then you're able to play it. It's magic.
Yeah, because some people like to play because they love the technical aspect of that. But I think for the most part, people who love music and love songs, they want to connect an instrument or a voice to one of those atmospheres, one of those planets, a song planet, basically. And people love to be attached to that thing, kind of moving through space and different moments throughout history. It's very special to think about you playing that song and me also playing that song. And however many other people playing that song who have sang that song. They're almost songs are just like little planets floating through. It's really special. Yeah.
It's cool. In preparing this interview, I was focused mostly on your new album, but in going through your song catalog and hearing tracks like Cold-Blooded and Home and No Mercy. I was reminded how many songs I've heard from you from so many different sources. Hundreds of songs from film trailers like Jack Reacher and Love, Simon, video games, sports ads.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite campaigns your music has been connected to?
Well, I think I have a few of those. One of them, I remember being able to go to, I was in LA. It was one of my first trips to LA as Zayde Wolf. I did a little showcase for a movie trailer house. And they were like, hey, come inside. I want to sign this NDA and want to show you something. And they showed me one of those aforementioned trailers that you mentioned there. And that was a mind-blowing moment to be like, oh, wow, this is like happening. Like, this is like a legit movie. This is going to be the song. So that was a big moment for me, because that was like the one that I realized, I think I've actually put something together that might work. And I think I can get, we can put a lot of time in this and it really be worth it. The second one, one of the other ones was the Chicago Cubs. I grew up in Illinois. Chicago Cubs used one of my songs for like their intro music, their walkout music, and that ended up ultimately leading to them having me come out and throw the first pitch out at a ball game. Gave me my own jersey, all because of a song. You know what I mean?
Dreams come true.
It's so special. I love sports. I love sports, and so to see my songs attached on so many cool things, like the March Madness thing this past year, they used one of my songs as like a key component to that, and I love that. I think it's so fulfilling. Just I think because I'm a sports head a little bit.
Yeah. One of your YouTube commenters out there asked, does this guy ever make a bad song? And I have to agree. Your music, and this album they're really great for any activity that you're doing, great for working out, finding that extra bit of energy. Who are your main music influences, and what music is currently in your playlist?
Right now I'm listening to very little current music, because I don't want to be drawn to anything current. There's a couple of years ago I stopped. It's not that I don't listen to it, but I'm probably not listening to any bands right now unless they just don't sound like anything that I'm doing. There's some things I'm just peeling off, but the most thing that I'm listening to now, I'm listening to yacht rock playlists, that soft 70s, early 80s bands that I just think they're just beautiful right now. Toto, everybody from Toto and, Michael Jackson songs, and of course, Tom Petty is my all-time favorite writer. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's just
good company there.
Yeah, I'm just listening to all kinds of, a lot of it's older music right now. I think it's not that I don't like new music. There are some stuff that I absolutely love, but I think I just focus on trying to create a feeling from older music sometimes,
Let's talk about Neon Blood Type. Some of the songs were released previously. There are 13 tracks in total. And in today's world of digital music, where consumers are downloading singles instead of full albums, I was wondering, do concept albums themes matter today for artists? And related to that, how did you go about song selection and sequencing on this album?
Yeah. I think that if you want to make a concept album or release an album, you should not be deterring yourself from creating a piece of art that's collective just because maybe the Spotify algorithm is pointing people to single songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make the art because you want to make the art. Put the songs together because you want to put them together. I've released, several of the songs kind of individually before. And some of that we were playing into, trying to get Spotify on board and Apple on board to help us as releasing. And other was just kind of building into the whole picture, to the whole album. A big part to the song selection this time was the the fact that we actually printed a vinyl of the
Whoa, that's
album.
cool.
Yeah, so because of the allotted amount of time restrictions and the fact that you have to turn the sucker over halfway through, that really kind of made me change my mind on the song order a few times. I had some extra help with that too, through some playlists and some friends, and we tried some different things out what would work. But we wanted to make sure, like initially when I put it together, I think the second side started with like a more chilled out song. Once we realized how much time we were going to have on each side, and I was like, we can't do that. Like the second side of the album needs to hit hard when it drops.
Somebody flips it over and it's like,
yeah, we don't want a sleeper when they flip it. So we definitely thought about that. And probably the least amount of people are going to listen to this thing as they are, on Spotify. But I still want to have a lot of fun with that and putting that together. So yeah, I think we definitely kind of had a feeling with that, but it was a big part of it too. And I also knew that since I wrote the song The Reason, which was like well over a year ago now, I knew that was the one that I wanted to put at the top. That's what I wanted to open the album with.
This is the reason we rise, no turning back, no turning back. Where do we go from here? Look in my eyes.
You hit the ground running with The Reason. Track 1. It's one of my favorite tracks. Songwriters are always drawing from personal experience. Was there a specific moment or event that inspired this song?
Yeah, I think, living through 2020 and seeing, especially the end of 2019 through 2020, seeing all the different political things that were happening, social things that were happening, as well as living through that first part of COVID-19 that we're dealing with. Like, I think all of those were sort of a pressure point for that song specifically. And just kind of wanting to tell a story while it felt like the whole world was trying to pull people sort of away from each other, that I wanted to make a song more about like togetherness and sort of rising together for something good. So yeah, that was kind of how that song was basically kind of the anti-2020 message.
Yes.
In some ways. Yeah, that's a big one for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can all rally around that.
Mm-hmm.
On a macro level, where does your creativity and inspiration for music come from? What do you draw upon most? And is there, an inner sort of spirituality to your music?
Well, I think just as far as like trying to get songs going, a lot of what I do is, I keep a lot of voice memos for ideas on my cell phone. So on my iPhone, anytime I have like any type of idea, even if I'm driving in the car or whatever, and they usually come at random points like that, I'll sing those in. And then sometimes I'll just pick a day when I'm like, well, I feel like I want to try to write a song today. I'll just start going back through and listening to those. And every once in a while I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe we should try that. And then I'll sometimes play on piano or try to make a drum beat for it or something like that to kind of get the song rolling. And then kind of revisit it again. It was like, was that any good? So sometimes there's things like that. And then the song Holy Water that's on the album, that one was written after we actually closed out the vinyl. Like, I had it all mastered. We were going to send it off, and my PR team reached out to me, Nicole, and she said that we could do an extended version of the album on Apple Music. They want to do like a special with that. Would you have any extra songs? I'm like, I just spent 2 years writing this album. I'm finished. And she's like, just see if you got any demos. Maybe it's just demos, something you can kind of finish up. Like, don't take it as hard on yourself as the other songs. Then a couple of days later, like, I'm playing around with some songs. I hated all of those. And then one evening, like, I think I had a little bit of whiskey and I sat down at the piano and basically wrote Holy Water top to bottom, sort of about, in some ways, kind of about whiskey or indulgences or whatever it might be. You know, it's kind of a song a bit about that type of thing. So yeah, that one basically flew out in probably in less than 24 hours. Like I had the first draft of the song basically mixed and finished in 24 hours on that one.
If I'm paying for these sins, I'm gonna need that holy water. Holy water. I'm gonna need that holy water. Yeah. Holy water. I'm gonna need that holy water.
It's interesting because it's almost, in a way, it's almost like the album is leading up to Holy Water.
Yeah, and then
So it's surprising that it was like a last edition.
Yeah, it's wild, very, very wild. But I'm so glad that I wrote it. I feel like I needed to write that song, and I think that because we had the album closed, and I felt like I had a lot of the other markers and types of songs that I wanted to write, and I had those finished. I think once I actually took the barriers away, that's the whole reason that song like emerged itself, and I was able to kind of like, you know, grab a hold of it for that moment. I think if I was still trying to write in a box thinking I need to write this type of song, or I want to do this type of thing, once I kind of put that away, it was like this was the song. It just came out. I wasn't holding it back myself anyway at that point.
I'm going to put you on the spot on this one because
All right.
every time I listen to this album, I have a new favorite song, right? 1 minute it's Never Fade. The next I'll be listening to It's a Vibe. I'm like, that's the song, you know? And I know it's kind of like picking between your kids, but do you have a favorite song or songs, and why?
You know, for this album, I think I definitely have some favorites. I think Holy Water is definitely a favorite song of mine because of just that sort of lightning in the bottle, and it just really felt so tangible at that time, and I felt like I needed to write that type of song. But I'm sort of looking at the track list right now off screen here. There's so many of them that are really fun to me, and I'm so glad that, you know, that I wrote them. You know, like I think Never Fade and also Still Fighting For It, they kind of fit in a little area together, like it's like types of songs, and those are real important to me because of kind of message that I'm trying to get across about staying together and keep fighting for things. And then there's other songs like Let's Go or Rumble, which are kind of like in a category together where they're just hype. Like you can put those on and just like feel good, drive down the road, you know. Then there's the like Feel Good and you know, Back at It are like kind of just like they're just real peppy songs. So yeah, I think I'm happy of like all of these songs are on the album, and I feel really good about this one because of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love this too. In addition to Neon Blood Type, especially being from a comic book publisher, you created a comic book / coloring book featuring you and your family as superheroes. And there it is. Yeah. This is probably fitting considering you were born in Metropolis. So where did this idea come from, and where can our listeners find it?
Sure. The fun part about it was, you know, as we were kind of working on, I have a good friend of mine that I grew up with. His name's Gabe Watkins, and he does he does all the cover artwork for me for all of the singles. He helps me come up with ideas for merchandise and things like that. And so we were working on a bunch of merchandise ideas that go along with the new album. And I kind of hit him up and I was like, dude, we need to do something like really different. We need to do like a weird calendar or something. I was like, or like a coloring book. And he's like, or a puzzle or a color. We're thinking of all these weird things to do, right? And he's like, coloring book. Like I got an idea how we can do that. He's been doing some design stuff for Crayola, and they have all these artists that they work with. And so he reached out to this guy named Ron Jensen, and I was like, hey Ron, we have this idea. We want to do like a coloring book that feels like a 1980s He-Man book, coloring book.
I was going to say the titling looks like Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I was like, we want to do something that like would remind adults about coloring books that they grew up with, but would also like kids who have a really young listener group and their parents. But the kids will think it's just like badass too, right? And so we just started coming up with these ideas. We want to kind of do a page for each song, and some things that I wanted to kind of include into that were like, feelings, making it feel like a vintage coloring book, but also to include some images of my family kind of as heroes in it, and Zayde Wolf fighting off giant snakes and meteorites and stuff like that. We just wanted to be like, let's just imagine our own universe right now and kind of create something. So yeah, it's fun. So since they can't see the picture, the coloring book is basically each page is a Zayde Wolf as if he were imagined as kind of like a superhero comic book character, and he's fighting robot skeletons in one page and a giant snake in another one, and running through a cavern, holding my wife's hand, and we've got a little torch and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's really fun. I'm so glad that we did it. I probably will never make back the money that it actually cost to actually make this thing, but I'm so glad that we did it. It's going to be really fun to give out to people and let people buy and all that stuff.
How important is family in your music, and what impact did becoming a father have on your music?
Oh, wow. I've been a dad a long time now. My oldest just turned 17. And so, yeah, it's had various impacts throughout. I think at first it was more like sort of like a life change. But now that we have, three, and kind of as a place where we are right now, like I do all of this for like the family and the outer family. Like that's the whole reason for keep pushing in and wanted to create something like this, and wanted to make it family friendly, but also feel just badass too, and not family friendly but not cheesy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to kind of create that sort of universe that makes everyone feel like they have a part in that, so probably just like most of any writer or of a series or a comic book or a movie franchise wants to do. They want to be able to enjoy that with family and have a scare, have an excitement, and talk about it, and then build the next level of it. So yeah, I kind of look at it like that a little bit. It's my own little franchise.
Hey, that's what it's all about these days. It's about your brand and franchise. Yeah. We've all been battling through this awful pandemic, sequestered at home, looking for a light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. How has your music inspired listeners during these challenging times? Do you have a memorable letter or note from a fan that you would like to share?
I don't have any of that right in front of me, but there's a few of them that I remember just because of, how special they are. I had several families message me videos from, Christmas morning and holiday gift openings this year of, 8, 9, 10-year-old boys and girls getting their Zayde Wolf t-shirts and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's really special. Like I had a woman who emailed me, and she was saying how the Zayde Wolf songs were helping her autistic daughter really concentrate through some things. They were kind of giving her her little inspirational little nuggets to kind of help her work through some serious challenges she was having, and ultimately kind of led her to take up some boxing training as a young teenager. And that helped her a lot because it gave her an outlet for some things and stuff. So there's been a lot of really cool stories like that Yeah, it's just so special, man.
So rewarding. It's got to be.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to share those with other people, and yeah, just kind of be a part of that. I feel like I'm orbiting the planet of those songs too. You know what I mean? Like with everybody else. I don't feel like I'm the middle of that.
We are going interstellar with Zayde
Yeah,
Wolf
that's right.
on today's broadcast.
I love that movie.
Yes. Last question for you. With the release of the new album, will you be on tour? What's up next for you?
Well, I tell you, when I was first getting into beginning of 2020, and I was thinking about finishing, I was going to kind of get myself into a pace of making finishing the album. I thought for sure that I would probably, with the release, do a handful of shows, at least like some release parties and things like that. And I just have not even dug it back out with kind of everything that's sort of still flying around, and how do you plan for it. And then I started looking at venues, and the venue owners, they really only want the biggest things they can get through there right now, and they're getting a lot of it because no one toured for a year, so they can kind of get whoever they want through there. So I just kind of put it on the back burner for right now, but it'd be fun, I think, to do a handful of kind of release party shows or something.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. We love your music and certainly looking forward to more great things from you.
Yeah, thanks for
Awesome.
having me on, man. That was
Absolutely.
really awesome to talk to you, and I appreciate all your questions and all your knowledge, and I love it.
If you'd like to learn more about Zayde Wolf, the official webpage is zaydewolf.com. That's ZAYDEWOLF.com. You'll find all kinds of music videos. You can sample all of the tracks on Neon Blood Type, check out the merchandise store for the Zayde Wolf comic book, and even pre-order Neon Blood Type on vinyl. How cool is that? And of course, you can access Zayde Wolf's music on all major music sources from iTunes to Spotify.